SEO to me is just ranking on search engines, and there's a lot of different search engines out there. So what I mean by that is most people look at search engines as Google. Then you have Bing. But there's more to search than just that. A Google VP once said earlier this year, when young people are looking like Gen Z are looking for a place to eat or a place to go, they're turning to TikTok and Instagram for searching and finding these locations before turning to Google. And search is everywhere. It's not just TikTok or Instagram or Facebook or, Twitter has a search feature, X has a search feature. Even if you have a rental listing on Airbnb, you're optimizing for their search. When someone searches for they want to take a vacation in a certain city and you have a listing, let's say you're a business that has rental properties, you want your listing to rank higher. So it's not only is search everywhere, but SEO, the art of optimizing so that way you're listed higher up when people are doing searches, is not just on Google or Bing. It's also on TikTok or Instagram or Airbnb, and the list goes on and on.
Welcome, everyone, to the Tech Business Roundtable podcast show. This is a podcast show dedicated to shining a spotlight on tech innovators, entrepreneurs, founders, and the compelling narratives behind the movements they've established. I'm your host, Ryan Davies, and I'm hosting today's discussion on SEO marketing for tech business with Neil Patel. Neil, thank you so much for joining us here today.
Thanks for having me.
Little bit about Neil, incredibly well accomplished. If there's somebody who is an expert in this area, this is our guy. He is a New York Times best-selling author. The Wall Street Journal has called him the top influencer on the web. Forbes, one of the top 10 marketers. Entrepreneur magazine says created one of the 100 most brilliant companies. Recognizes a top 100 entrepreneur under the age of 30 by President Obama. He has helped Amazon, Microsoft, Airbnb, Google, Reuters, Viacom, NBC, you name it. It is an absolutely astonishing list to help them grow through marketing, and spoken at over 300 conferences and companies around the world, really helping people understand and grasp their marketing efforts. Neil, anything there that I did not touch on? But I mean, what a fantastic background and a great guest for us to have today to help us talk about SEO and marketing.
Thank you very much for saying all those kind words, and thank you for having me.
Let's jump right in. Talking about SEO, I think it's something that's been a topic, a buzzword almost, that's become a little bit cliched at times over the past 2 decades now, with the growth of search engine optimization and what it is. But I'll let you give our listeners a definition of what is SEO to you and the importance that it plays in today's marketing landscape.
Sure. So SEO to me is just ranking on search engines, and there's a lot of different search engines out there. So what I mean by that is most people look at search engines as Google. Then you have Bing. But there's more to search than just that. A Google VP once said earlier this year, when young people are looking like Gen Z are looking for a place to eat or a place to go, they're turning to TikTok and Instagram for searching and finding these locations before turning to Google. And search is everywhere. It's not just TikTok or Instagram or Facebook or, Twitter has a search feature, X has a search feature. Even if you have a rental listing on Airbnb, you're optimizing for their search. When someone searches for they want to take a vacation in a certain city and you have a listing, let's say you're a business that has rental properties, you want your listing to rank higher. So it's not only is search everywhere, but SEO, the art of optimizing so that way you're listed higher up when people are doing searches, is not just on Google or Bing. It's also on TikTok or Instagram or Airbnb, and the list goes on and on. So SEO has shifted to just being a Google thing to being on multiple platforms.
I mean, I guess that's a huge thing to consider, right? Is that it used to be on the search engine portion of things, as that was what it was. Right now, the optimization is really where the key is to do that. So how do you see, businesses pivoting now to really focus on that optimization? What are the key elements that need to be, in focus for optimization? And I guess it depends on which search engine you're using as well, right? How you should be optimizing.
Sure. So there's a lot of different factors, but if you're looking at most of them, one thing that a lot of them do is they look at brand. So how popular is your brand name? The reason that's important to them is they know that brands are less likely to create fake news, which is a big issue. There's a lot of false information on search engines. Another factor is how many other websites are linking to you. It's kind of like a vote of trust. Another factor is your content. How good is it? How up to date is it? And up to date is a real important factor. Like if you look on Wikipedia, anytime you do a search on Google, you see Wikipedia everywhere. And it's not because they have content on everything. Sure, that's part of it. But there's a lot of sites that have content on everything. What Wikipedia does is they keep their content fresh and up to date. Editors continue to go in there and make them fresh, because when you're doing a search, would you rather read something that's a week old, or would you rather read something that's 2 years old? Most likely you're going to pick the thing that's a week old. That's what Wikipedia has. It's continually fresh and up to date. Maybe it's not a week old, maybe it's a month old, maybe it's 3 months old, but that's still better than something that's 2 or 5 years old.
Absolutely. I mean, I think that's, again, incredibly key factor is how do you weight this then? Like, how do you, when you just listed a whole bunch of different things in terms of, up to date content and just different ways that you have to do it. There's only so much time, energy, resources that you can put towards different things. Do you have things that are, hey, this is what's most important? Or is it, as long as you've got that up to date content and you're staying relevant, that's what's going to kind of be the deciding factor, a key push?
Yeah, so content's a big, if I had a weight in SEO, content's probably the biggest piece that not enough people invest in correctly. A lot of either people use AI to create content, so it's just creating more Me Too content. When I mean Me Too, it's more regurgitated information, because AI is scraping the web and just creating content based on what's already out there. People want to read new, fresh stuff that's not talked about. The next thing with content is people want up-to-date content. So you have to look at what content is stale and needs updating. And the biggest way to figure out what content you should keep up to date most frequently, you go look at what pages are driving your traffic and driving your conversions. So your analytics will tell you where your conversions are coming from, like Google Analytics. And then on the flip side, Google Search Console shows you what pages are getting what traffic, and you can compare them. All right, how did this page do today versus 12 months ago or 3 months ago? And it'll show you all the pages that are declining. The ones that are declining, those pages that are driving the traffic, and based on what's driving conversions, based on what your analytics are telling you, those are the pages you should update more frequently. Be like, all right, I'm losing rankings because it's not as good as the competition. Well, let me search for what the keywords that this page is ranking for, which Google Search Console shows you, and see who are the people ranking above me. What are they doing in their content that we're not doing? Why is theirs ranking better than us? How is theirs more beneficial to a user than ours? Asking these questions will help you figure out and determine what you need to do to improve your content. And that's a big thing that a lot of companies just don't do a good job on. It's not rocket science. It's a lot of manual grunt work. Sure, you can use AI to help you with some of the processes, but you still need a human to go out there and create something that's new, unique. And what a lot of content lacks is what Google calls EAT, right? Experience, expertise, authority, and trust. That's what EAT stands for. And they want you to include that kind of stuff in your content. So a great example, let's say if you're a medical company and you have this cancer drug, talking about, and I know there's laws against medicine and what you can or you can't say out there, but creating content that's medical related, kind of like WebMD, is great. But if you're a cancer patient and you've gone through chemo, you've taken medication, and you're sharing your story and your experience on what it's like with the drug and how it makes you feel and the ins and outs and the hard parts and the good parts and the emotional roller coaster, that's a unique type of content that would be hard for AI to write. They can make it up, right? But it's not necessarily going to be accurate. You sharing your own experience is a very unique perspective that a lot of people would want to read.
And that's a great call out. I mean, you really need that authenticity and that, like you said, that experience, those pieces that are there. That just feeds right into that last part of trustworthiness too, right? So if you've got something where you're proving results, you're showing what you do, and you're, that you can get that third party feel to it as well in terms of testimonials or exactly that, the results. huge piece for people to play in there. You mentioned AI, and I'd love to touch on that a little bit. What do you think AI's impact is going to continue to be? I mean, it's already started to shape the space. Again, Google needs to see original content. They want to see what you're doing, not just you're really great at Control C and Control V and copying somebody else's expertise, but that it's original experiences and original content. Chat GPT, things like that, just scrapes, as you mentioned, that information. But what do you think AI's impact is going to be over time here on SEO, and how that impacts rankings and people's ability to be seen?
Sure. So when you look at AI, a lot of people are like, SEO is dead. They're worried that when you do a search, Google's just going to give you the answer. And they're going to give you an answer for a lot of stuff. But they've been doing that for many years. 2 + 2 = 4. What's the weather in Los Angeles, California, or Las Vegas, Nevada? They give you the answer. If you go back in time, 10, 15 years ago, maybe more like 15, if you typed in weather in Las Vegas, Nevada, you would actually then see weather.com, and then you'd click on the site, and then you'd go find the weather. Or you go directly to weather.com. Google eventually is like, wait, we should answer the question right then and there in our search results. And this affects some people's traffic. But according to Danny Sullivan, who's Google's search liaison, and he's been working there for a while now, he's specifically said Google has continually driven more traffic to websites each and every single year since its beginning. So even though a lot of the searches are resulting in no clicks or people not going to a site, Google's still driven more traffic to websites. Now with AI, I think that can change over time. Maybe you get less traffic. But Google can't just answer every question for you because not everything is black and white. On top of that, for a lot of categories like health and finance, they can't really answer a lot of the questions because they can't give you bad medical advice. Imagine you typing a question into Google and it gives you a medical answer, and you take their response and you do what Google says and you pass away, you die. It's a lawsuit waiting to happen. Google knows this. They know a lot of the information out there on the web is inaccurate. And I'll give you another example of this. Let's talk about COVID right now. I don't have the stats and the data, but I follow the stock market quite closely. If you look at the write-downs that Pfizer and Moderna and a lot of these guys are doing from their COVID vaccines, it's quite drastic. Why is that? It's the amount of people taking COVID vaccines has drastically reduced, right? I'm not talking, this is not opinions, this isn't politics, this is just pure data, right? But if you look at a lot of the articles on the web that are out there that'll talk to you about vaccines, people have very polarizing stances. You need the vaccine, you don't need the vaccine, etc. And a lot of people have taken the vaccines, and a lot of those people don't really take the vaccines anymore. If that wasn't the case, Moderna and Pfizer wouldn't have this tons of these vaccines just sitting there, and then their finances not doing as well from a future standpoint when they project out how much revenue they're going to make from these COVID vaccines. But when you do a search, that data is still out there on the web. It makes it really hard on, should you take a COVID vaccine? Shouldn't you? I'm not a doctor. I'm not here to tell you what to do with your body. But that's the point I'm getting at. It's really hard to give people advice and answers for every single topic. In many cases, you can't. Yes, there's longer tail search queries that are going to happen because Google can start solving your problems for you. For example, if I'm looking to go to work on a bike and I'm going up hills and it's roughly 5 miles a day, what electric bike is best for me? Right? You can now ask Google a long question instead of a 2-3 word query. Instead, you can just ask them a 10, 12, 15 word query, a whole question, and they'll give you an answer. That's going to change search a lot because more people are going to start asking longer questions and just expect the answer. They may not get what they're looking for. They may have to go to websites, or they may find what they're looking from Google or Bing or any of the other providers out there. Time will tell. But I still think websites will get a lot of traffic, and I still think websites will have to make a lot of adjustments. But it doesn't mean search is going to die. It's just going to adapt and change.
Like most things, right? And it's funny how it comes full circle. Wasn't that Ask Jeeves where they started? Was ask me the whole question and I'll bring up all the sites that we think have the answers. And now here we are again with people asking the full questions, but now they're just getting, like you said, they're getting the answers presented to them. and not having to do that, 2, 3 layer digging necessarily. But that's still, as you mentioned, the traffic is going up, right? With 5% of web pages getting 95% of the traffic, right? So you talk about that brand dominance and that ability to kind of own those top ranking spaces. How does somebody who is maybe for some of our listeners here who aren't a Pfizer or Moderna, but they're in med tech or medical, or they're not a Microsoft or a Google, but they're in an industry in tech. How do they become somebody who can play in those dominant spaces and rank higher and really bring that, maybe that first E of experience, if they're newer, still be able to kind of play the SEO game and dominate?
You can. If you're a tech company and you're newer, or even whether you're established, but you haven't been doing much SEO, it doesn't matter. You're still going to have to start from the ground up. So it's like you're newer, even if you're established. And you can do well. It comes down to content, people linking to you, your brand, which is all about your product and service, your experience that you provide users. Are they finding what they're looking for when they go to your website, or are they clicking the back button? Because if someone does a Google search, and a lot of people use Chrome, and they click on your listing and then they click the back button right away and they click on the next listing and they stay there, it means that people didn't find what they're looking for on your website. And if that keeps happening, it'll reduce your rankings. That's user experience. How do you improve the user experience? Those are some of the main factors. There's hundreds of factors, but those are some of the main factors that are super important. Also, your code. Is your code clean, and can the search engines crawl your website and understand what your site is all about? Do you also specialize in a subject? Because if you're a tech company and you have a website on a specific topic, that's great. But what we find is, tech companies start producing content. Like there was one company that was server related. They wanted to do well on Google. They started creating some topics about dentists and other stuff, in hopes that it would help them rank higher because more people were interested in dental stuff or live stuff or whatever it may be. You need to stick to your vertical. If you're known for, talking about servers and cloud computing, stick with that. Don't just, I'm a marketer. I don't talk about business advice. Sure, I'm an entrepreneur as well, but I stick to my vertical, and that's what produces better results in the long run.
Amazing. And I think there's some great takeaways here. And you've built, NP Digital with this in mind, correct? Is the idea of being able to, so tell us a little bit about that journey and like, how you've been able to parlay all of your knowledge into some great success there.
Sure. So my background, I've been an entrepreneur for 22 years now, right? So quite a while, getting close to 23. And when I look at my entrepreneur journey,
when you started, because you don't look that old, so you must have been like in your teenager years here being an entrepreneur.
yeah, I started when I was 16. I'm 38 now.
There you go.
So when you look at when I started, and technically I started at 15 and a half, but I'll round up. So when you look at the 22 years, I first started, my first website was a job board, and I couldn't find a high paying job. So I wanted, like, let me just create a job board and help other people find a job and make some money that way, because I can't find one. Didn't work out. Popped up the job website, a job board, and no one came. And then I learned this thing like, oh, I got to do marketing. Well, let me learn how to do marketing. Well, TV ads are too expensive, and I don't have all this money for all these other things. So what works? Oh, SEO works and paid Google ads. So I had to start learning a lot of these things, social media, etc. The ad agency was a pain, dealt with a lot of customers. I loved it. I didn't focus though. And I was actually at that time saw a bigger opportunity. I'm like, I'm dealing with these customers. And I remember I was dealing with General Motors, and I told them they can save extra $2 million a month on marketing because a lot of the channels aren't driving conversions. And I got fired from the account because the person said, well, I'll lose a budget next quarter if I don't spend it. And I was like, well, you just spend it somewhere else, place that gets ROI. So I saw opportunity to create a software company that tracked conversions and gave people insights. That did extremely well, not right away. Within 3-4 years after launch, it just took a while to get up and running. Then from there, created a few other software companies. And, fast forward to 5-6 years ago, I was like, you know what? I see a big opportunity in the ad agency world. And I've been focusing, the software companies are running on its own. focus on getting back into the ad agency world with NP Digital. And I was like, when I was running my own companies, I'm like, man, I'm struggling to hire ad agencies to help us scale. So then I was like, I wish they could do it like the way I want it done. So then I created an ad agency to do marketing the way I like and wanted for my own companies. And it's worked out quite well. We've won performance marketing agency of the year award 2 years in a row. We've won awards, multiple years for best SEO campaigns, best paid ad campaigns on Google, Facebook, etc. We won tons of awards globally, not just in the United States. We now have over 750 employees working for us globally. We have multiple software divisions inside. We've been leveraging things like AI to get our clients better results. And we've been having a really fun journey. We're in, I think, 16 or 19 countries now, and we're still growing even in this bad market.
Incredible. And with that in mind, I mean, so you've seen it time and again, tech company, whatever, like you said, big or small, new or old, whatever it is, and they are essentially lost, right? Hey, my marketing doesn't work. I have a website and it doesn't convert. I hear that all the time, right? Well, I'm on the web. How come I'm not, how come I'm not getting any traffic, or how come I'm not converting the traffic I'm getting? When you're talking table stakes and somebody to get started here, what do you think are the key things to be able for people to recognize and know so that they can start this journey and start this process to growth?
Yeah, so I'll actually give you one tip, which is where people should start if they already have a website, but they're not getting the results they want. So if I was a website owner, I would actually use tools like Crazy Egg that show me how people are interacting with my pages in a visual heat map. They'll show you where they click, where they don't, where they're getting stuck, where they're dropping off, how far they're scrolling. And then it'll give you that data. And then you can use that data to make changes on your website. And Crazy Egg has a WYSIWYG editor, so you can just click buttons, make changes, and see how that's affecting people. From there, those tests will tell you, did it drive more leads, more conversions? It did better for mobile or desktop or this region or this traffic source. And then you can figure out how to fine tune from there. But you need to first see where people are getting stuck and what issues they have before you start making adjustments. It's not about your gut. It's about data, right? Because sometimes your gut can lead you in the right direction and sometimes it can lead you in the wrong direction. Some things that are common sense don't always produce the best conversions. For example, most people think if your form fields are shorter and on one page, you're better off. But a lot of times we've seen taking those form fields and breaking up into 3-4 different pages, even though it's more work for a user, creates more people to complete the journey and you getting more leads, right? For example. So you can't always just rely on your gut. You got to use data.
I think that's incredibly important, right? Is to understand you need a foundation, you need to know where you are. I see all the time with people who they don't navigate their website like a normal person would navigate their website because it's their site, right? So they go to another site and they navigate it completely different. Then they look at their site and go, well, mine's, it's so the design appeal is so nice, or the aesthetics are good, or whatever it is. But getting that heat map and understanding where the clicks are happening and how much time they're spending, all of that is the information you can parlay into making those changes and do that A/B testing and things like that, right? So one of the other things I want to talk about is the importance of a marketing specialist and SEO specialist, right? A lot of times companies want to take this on themselves and do this work, but as you mentioned, there are hundreds of factors at play here. Where do you find is there a good bang for your buck in investing into somebody to help you with this path, and how do you choose somebody to make that to make that all important decision for you?
Yeah, so typically at our clients at NP Digital, they're larger corporations. A lot of them actually have in-house people that do these kind of things, paid ads, SEO, etc., conversion optimization. But at the same time, they work with agencies and consultants to help them, bolster the results. So for most of our clients, we actually are working with in-house team members and helping them produce better results and scale out their campaigns. So it's actually a combo of both. And typically, if you're a company at scale, you don't want to hire generalists as marketers. You want to hire specialists. You'll produce much better results. Sure, you need more of them, but the results outweigh the expense from what we see.
And then SEO versus paid ads. One more last thing, because I'm sure you get this all the time. What's the blend? What's the strategy? Is there a strategy? Or again, does it come down to really like you have to do one before the other to be successful?
You can do either one in any order, but what we see, the most successful companies do both. And it's not about what percentage should come from SEO or paid. You try to get the maximum amount of traffic from all channels as long as it's profitable. And you keep pushing them and you push them. If paid is getting 50% of your traffic, but you can make it 80% and it's still highly profitable, go for 80%. If the organic you can't get any higher in a profitable fashion, then that's fine. Maximize each channel to its full potential. Don't worry about the split. Just make as much money and scale it as big as possible, as long as it's profitable.
Perfectly said. It's exactly it, right? Again, you got to find out where that information is coming from and be able to process it and have the right analytics and data. Is there a snapshot that you tend to say, if you're collecting data, these are the things that you need to know? Is it conversion rate? Is it clicks? Is it anything is there some specifics that you would say, these are the important analytics that you need to understand as a forefront?
So the key performance indicators, KPIs for every business are going to vary, but some typical standard ones are like visitors, where you're getting your visitors from, your traffic from. 2, conversion rates, where you're getting your conversions from. That way you know which traffic sources to focus on. Your LTV of a customer, what's your lifetime value? Is it different from different channels and stuff like that? Those kind of things will help you determine where you should spend more money or less money.
And, with that, I want to give people a chance to, learn more about you and get in contact with you. So for our listeners who are interested in learning more, who are, maybe at, again, various stages of their SEO, SEM journeys and could use some extra support, how can they reach out, get some more information with you and learn more about how they can improve their performance?
Yeah, npdigital.com. That's my ad agency. N as in Nancy, P as in Paul, digital.com. Or it stands for Neil Patel Digital, technically, but yes.
Excellent. Well, that's a great place, I think, for us to kind of wrap up and take it from there. Neil, is there anything else to touch on that you think is again, maybe a low-hanging fruit for people to take away information-wise? I know we've got a lot here that people have probably been furiously scribbling notes and will be coming back again to make sure they've got all the information down. But anything to add?
No, I think we covered quite a bit, and just start one step at a time and be patient. It takes a while to get results. Don't expect the world within 3 to 6 months, but after a year, 2, 3 years, you start seeing exponential results, and the ROI is massive. I built according to Inc. magazine, the 21st fastest growing company in the United States because of it.
That's perfectly well said. It takes patience. It's a marathon. It's not a sprint. So you got to make sure that you train for that marathon, right? No one goes and runs a marathon just by showing up at the start line and expecting to finish, right? So you gotta take that into account here. So I want to take a minute to thank Neil for this amazing podcast, SEO marketing for tech business. Neil, hopefully we can have you back again, because I know there's probably 100 topics we could spin off and get more and more specific on this. So I really appreciate your time today. Thank you so much.
Thank you for having me.
Excellent. I also want to thank our listeners. We can't do what we do without you. So until we meet again with another amazing TBR episode, I'm your host, Ryan Davies. Take care out there. Thanks so much.